Good afternoon. Oh, is this on?
You know how much we encourage staff to stay
Oh,
awake?
I thought this was a microphone, but it's a microphone for the computer. Appreciate everybody coming, and we're about to get started. Just so everyone knows, we are live streaming with Patrick there in the back right corner. So just make sure everyone's aware of that. But before I introduce Chris Finney, our first speaker, I know Mayor Bethune wanted to say a few words before we get started.
All right. Thank you, Fox.
You're welcome.
How is everyone? Great. Let's do better. How is everybody? How about a happy 87th birthday to the city of Myrtle Beach? And I want to welcome everybody and thank you for being at the budget retreat. I know it's not easy, especially for some of us with a lot going on with families and other issues to get away. But it is so important that we dedicate this time to our budget. And I want to thank our city staff and department heads and management team for the countless hours and months that they have put into this. And now it's time for us to do our part. I want everybody who is a first-timer at the budget retreat to stand up, please. All first-timers, stand up. What you don't know, you're not included, Fox is sitting down, is all first-timers are the first ones to sing karaoke after dinner tonight. So in the back of your mind, be thinking about what song you want to sing. You can do it together. We don't care, but just know that you will be singing tonight. You go ahead and sit down. Why do we come here for our budget retreat? That's been a question. I actually got it last night when I was speaking to a group of people. We have tried doing this retreat back at home. There's something about this place that when you get here, you just decompress, you relax, and we can focus. And this is the type of work that we need to focus on. This is the most important thing that we do as a council, is voting on our municipal budget. So we want everyone to have a great time when it's time to have a great time, but when we're in here to work. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate the work that's already gone into this and the work that we're going to do together these next couple of days. I do want to encourage everybody, especially at mealtime, get to know somebody that you don't know that well. Sit with different people and let's build relationships. We already have a great team, and let's make these next 2.5 days, day and a half, a time to make our team even stronger and better. Thank you.
Where we, thank you very much, Mayor Bethune, where we had Ralph Salvino in the past, but given that we just had lunch, we kind of felt we'd shake it up a little bit instead of an economics report. So we have Chris Finney from the State Revenue and Fiscal Affairs Office. The presentation is in your notebook. So he's got a very lengthy presentation to talk about demographic changes in the state and some other financial stuff. So Chris.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. Again, my name is Chris Finney. Just a little background about myself. I'm from Marion, South Carolina, so it's nice to be able to talk to a group that actually knows where that is. There you go. There you go. Grew up there, still have family there, and have family in Myrtle Beach, so I'm happy to be here to be able to talk with you all. I grew up there, went to South Carolina, got my master's in statistics, and started an internship at the same office, predecessor of the office now, but 22 years later, I'm here talking to you all. So love the office and love the job I do, and glad to be able to be here to talk to you all about some of the numbers. Fox, you assured me this will work.
It worked earlier.
There we go. A quick little introduction to our office, for those of you who might not be familiar with us. We were formed in 2015 with the breakup of the Budget Control Board. Our mission is to provide independent research, analysis, and resources to facilitate informed policy decisions and administration of services. It's a mouthful, it's a lot, but it covers a lot. We do a lot in our office, and we're here for you. We're here for the governor, the General Assembly, for researchers, for the average Joe who's just looking for information to be able to make decisions in everyday life. We're here for everyone, and we're here to help you find the information you need to make the decisions that are very important to local areas that you serve. We have a staff of approximately 70 of a wide variety of backgrounds, from program managers to statisticians to surveyors to GIS analysts. You name it, we got people with some skills to do a lot of different things, which is why we do a lot of different things. So if you ever need us and you're looking for information, give me a call, give our office a call. If we don't have it, we probably can find it for you if it's available. So feel free to reach out anytime for help making decisions. We have 4 divisions. Our Mapping and Operations division, they do county boundary program, state wireless 911. They head up the aerial imagery, among other things. Our Fiscal Analysis division, they do budget research. They do fiscal impact statements for pending legislation, and they do revenue forecasting for the General Assembly. I should have seen. Why do you tell me to switch slides? And then there's, we have our IT infrastructure, which handles the security of the data we have, and then we have HR functions, and then I'm a little more partial to data integration analysis, the division I head, but we house the integrated data system, which I'm going to tell you a little bit more about in the next slide. This is something we're very proud of that we've had for, wow, going on 40 years and 35 years now. Quite some time we've built this. This, we call it the Circle of Love internally. This is where we house a lot of data from many different state agencies. And having the data here is great, but what's really great is being able to link this data at the individual level. We believe that it's the entire human experience that influences health and social well-being. Well, we tried to capture that entire human experience around this circle. I don't know if this, y'all are probably not going to be able to see that, but starting at top left in the red, let's start with the orange. We can look at birth records, birth certificates. We can follow them through school, going up through the red, through the education data. We'll skip employment because we can get back there at the end, but you can look at their social services, hopefully no corrections, outcomes, disability and special needs, and then all their mental health and health care at the bottom, and the wage and employment, and we can even follow them, vital records. We have the death certificate data as well. So as you can imagine, it's pretty powerful to be able to look longitudinally. We have 25 plus years in most all of these data systems that we're able to follow kids from birth all the way up through young adult and look at different outcomes. And a lot of these people hit programs in local areas, and they come to us and want to see what kind of outcomes are these kids having. So we're able to do that and link it across the different data systems. We don't own any of the data. All the data is controlled by the owners, the people that trust us with the data, and we have an application process to go back to them to allow researchers, planners, you all, anybody, access to the data and be able to look at it to make decisions. And to be honest, the most important data might not even be up there. If you'll see the top little blurb, we have people come to us all the time with their own data. They have a program they want to evaluate, and we work out an MOU or an agreement. They come to us, they give us their data. We're able to bring it internally and link it with these other outcomes to see what we're looking at. And we do this in a secure way. We do it through an encrypted ID process. We don't know who the people are that are coming in the system. We don't know the names. We work with an ID that allows us to track it across the system. So it's a really powerful model. And to be honest with you, it's one of the first of its kind nationally, and we get a lot of people come to us from all across the nation to get access to the data to be able to do different research. Now, enough of that. I could talk to you on that one all day, but I'll look at some of the numbers. I'm probably not going to tell you anything you don't already know, but I'm going to put some numbers to what you've probably already seen. Our state's changing. Horry County's changing big time. I mean, we're aging, we're growing. As a state, we were the fastest growing state percentage-wise from 2010 to 2020, and the fourth fastest growing numbers-wise. So it's pretty impressive for our little old South Carolina state. So and what you're going to see is in some of these slides are not all counties are the same. Some counties are struggling, some counties are declining, and some counties are booming and growing in different ways. So what you're going to see, the common theme is we are growing a lot. We're growing in different ways, but we're aging. What's that going to do to the services we need to offer? What kind of changes are we going to have to make to take care of that older population? A look at 1970 census compared to 2020 in this population pyramid. You can see that we were bottom heavy, a lot of younger, median age of 24 back in 1970. The boomers coming up there. We were worried about schools back then. You know, where are you going to put all the kids? Have all those people coming up and going through the workforce, and you know, the services we offer them, as opposed to now, it's kind of a cylindrical shape, and it's evened out. So we don't have all those people coming up. They're aging. The services they require are changing, and that pattern is going to continue. You'll see we put out population projections, and you're going to see it's kind of the same thing. You know, it's evening out. We don't have a big influx of younger kids coming. We're not growing in that population the way we're growing with the 65 plus population. Look at the counties. You can see Horry's up there, fourth largest in the state, behind Greenville, Richland, and Charleston. But then you got the other side. The other counties are small. You got Allendale, McCormick, Bamberg, and Calhoun on the bottom side. These are your population estimates for 2023. A lot of what you're going to see over the course of these slides are the changes from 10 to 20, or even from 20 to 40 are projections. But where we can do a comparison, we do the comparison at the most recent population estimates, which is what the 2023 was. Changes from 10 to 20. You can see that the areas along the coast, your urban areas, your central Midlands, your upstate, are all growing rapidly. And then your areas in around the 95 corridor and the little pockets between the Midlands and upstates, they're either stable or declining. So the planners in these different counties are going to have to take this into account into what's needed and the different changes that they need. But Horry County grew the fastest at almost 31% from 2010 to 20, and that trend we see is going to continue over the course of the next 10 to 20 years. I think our next slide, you can see it kind of continues the same change from 20 to 40. You can see the big change for Horry County. Give you a little note on these projections that we produce. The projections we produce internally use births and deaths and then migration over the last 5 years as trends to be able to calculate these projections. We don't account for any upcoming change in recruiting or recruiting a plant, say the Scout plant that they're going to open in Blythewood. That may bring an influx of population in, but and may change the course of, say, a Fairfield or something. But our projections do not take that into account. It's strictly how the trends have been going in the last 5 years, and if they were to continue without something changing that, this is what we expect to see in 2040. We will update these projections every year as the new data comes out. We update it on rolling years in 5-year terms, and we update them. And we should have new estimates coming out in the next couple of months, so be on the lookout. Part of what I mentioned a minute ago of what makes up our projections are your natural change, which is births minus deaths. And you can see that births have been on the decline in South Carolina since 2009 or 10 or so, and deaths have been on the rise. But in 2020, with the pandemic, deaths finally went above births, and they've come back down, but they haven't equaled out yet, and we're still 2023 preliminary numbers still have them going to be deaths slightly above births. So all the growth in our state is coming from migration. Not every county is the same, but statewide as a total, all of our growth is coming from migration. It's not coming from births. So we need to take that into account as we have a new population coming into the state. And Horry County especially, because more people are going there, and we'll see some more of that in different slides. Here's a look at the two components for the population change. You have your natural change, which is birth. I mentioned birth minus deaths, and then net migration, which is migration into the state and counteracted with what's going out of the state. And you can see that all of our growth is due to net migration because there's more deaths than births. So we expect to continue to see that for at least the next year or so as well. Now look at some of the statewide trends. We've broken down kind of the age of what we're going to see in 0 to 17, 18 to 64, and 65 plus. We'll look at some of the trends for the state that way. 0 to 17 age group. Oh, sorry, I apologize. The 0 to 17 age group is fairly flat, fairly stable, but you can see the 65 plus age range is expected to surpass them in 2027. And as a state, the 65 plus age range is growing about the same as your working age population, 18 to 64. But again, as we'll see in future slides, that's not the case for all counties, and especially not for Horry County. You can see that the 0 to 17 is, while it's relatively stable and flat, they're going to make up a smaller and smaller percent of the state as a total population. These are our future workers. These are people that are coming up and going into the workforce. So without them growing, without an influx of people coming into the workforce, we're going to struggle to find workers coming up. We're going to find local areas are going to struggle to find people to take care of the elderly population, or even the other working. The goal is to get the working age population back into work. So we've seen with participating in the Coordinating Council for Workforce Development that there's a lot of people on the sidelines. We need to get them back to work, and I'll show you in a couple of slides that what that looks like. It's just there's not a lot of a lot of workers out there per job opening, so. Sorry. A look at the 0 to 17 population change from 2010 to 20. Much of the same thing we saw with the total population change. You will see it's not as drastic as there's areas that aren't growing as fast. You do have your pockets like Berkeley and York. We think what we're seeing there is your younger populations are moving out of the areas that are more expensive, like Charlotte or Charleston, and moving to a little more suburban areas and living. So you can see there are pockets that are growing pretty quick in the 0 to 17. And so we expect that to continue. We'll see in going to 2040. Again, the trends continue. We'll see the same counties kind of growing just as quickly. And while Horry County is growing in the 0 to 17 population, they're not growing nearly as fast as the older population in Horry County. And we'll see a couple of reasons why in future slides. And please interrupt me if anybody has a question. '18 to 64 population, what we consider our working age population. You can see they're continuing to decline as far as the percentage of the population they make up. 2010, they made up 62, almost 63% of the population, and that's expected to decline to right at 58% in 2040. So again, it's where are we going to get our workers from? What are we going to do? You know, the private industry adjusts pretty quick. They're able to find the workers, give the raises they need to get what they need. But in government, you know, we a lot of times we end up taking from each other. So we think that to find the skilled workers we need, we're going to have to collaborate a little bit more and do some shared services and rely on each other to get some of the services done that we need. So it's going to be a problem we really need to look into. That 18 to 64 population changing from 2010 to 20 at the county level, you can see much of the same things we saw for the 0 to 17. Again, Horry looks great. Horry's growing all over the place. We will see that the 65 plus age population is growing much quicker though than the 18 to 64. Going out to 2040, it just really hits home at how much growth there really is, and you can see the dark areas. The different counties are going to have, a lot of counties are going to struggle, but Horry County's again looking good. I'll keep pointing that out. But 65 plus population, your elderly.
Wait a minute. Easy how you say that.
Sorry. They are going to make up a large portion of our population by 2040, grow from almost 14% to 25% of our population in 2040. What services will they need? What are we going to do to take care of them? Those are going to be the questions we need to ask ourselves and settle on. This clicker doesn't like me, Fox. All right. Now, I usually don't like maps like this. I'll tell my GIS analysts all the time, if I see a map that's all one color, I'm probably going to give it back to you and tell you to change something. But I thought this really hit home, and so I wanted to keep it. From 2010 to 20, we grew in every county for the 65 plus age group, and grew a lot, not just a little bit. You know, the aging baby boomers have hit hit his age range, and they, yeah, and so, again, how does that change the makeup of the services we provide them? And the same counties that were declining in population in the other age groups saw a lot of increase as well in the 65-plus age range. And you'll see as we project out to 2040, kind of changes a little bit. We don't expect those continued growth in the 95 corridor or the pockets between the Midlands and Upstate really as much, but we expect to see a lot of growth along the coast in your urban areas, the Midlands and Upstate, where you would expect it, you know, where the most of the services are that they need.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Looking at where there are projected decreases, also no relation to the cost of living, are we going to see people in the reason that we're seeing the decreases, are they moving into the areas where better services already exist, or do you know?
We can look at that. We haven't looked at that, but what you're talking about is a more in-state, county-to-county migration.
Correct.
That information is available. I don't have that. We haven't looked at that, but I would imagine we are seeing some of that as well.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. I love this map. This is a bivariate analysis. So we know we're getting a lot of migration into the state. This is a look at not only how much migration we're getting, but the median age of that migration. So you can see the really dark colors, Horry, Georgetown, Jasper. Not only are they getting a lot of growth, but their population is older. Median age of 60 plus, 61 plus. Actually, sorry, between 42 and 61. So the darker colors are your older and getting a lot of migration, and Horry County's at the top of the list. So it just kind of hits home as to we know it's coming in, where's it going, and how old are they? You can see McCormick's looks a little odd, but I've heard they built a senior housing community there in McCormick, so they've seen a lot of influx of your older population, but not in total. Now for a more localized look at just Horry and Myrtle Beach, kind of compare Myrtle Beach to Horry as a whole and see any differences. I mentioned earlier about Horry County that the age range is growing. If you remember when we looked at South Carolina as a whole, the 65 plus age group was growing at a similar rate as the 18 to 64, not so much with Horry County. Horry County, the 65 plus age population is growing much faster than your others. Again, you already knew that, just help seeing it in another way. Now for a look at total population change, 10 to 23, Horry County versus Myrtle Beach. You can see total-wise, all of Horry County is not changing. There are some parts that are stable in northern and central Horry County, and same for Myrtle Beach. You have your center part of Myrtle Beach that's stable, while the rest of it is growing pretty quickly. Zero to 17 population looks really different, as there's Central Horry seems to be declining and stable in northern, and then some other areas that are growing. Myrtle Beach seems to be growing pretty much, and with the center being stable as well. $18 to $64, similar as the total population. And then, of course, the drastic 65 and plus, where we see growth most places, like we did with the statewide map. I would give you a demonstration, but that would take a lot of time. But I encourage you all to, we published a Tableau dashboard for our population estimates and projections. Pretty much all the numbers you've seen me put up here, graphs, you can go out there and play and pull up anything you need to know. You can probably find it on that dashboard and find a way to get the information. So I encourage you to go out there and just use that tool to be able to pull the numbers that you need. And if you can't do it or the numbers aren't there, feel free to reach out to me anytime. We can pull the numbers for you. As a census hub, we have statisticians that work with that data all the time and can pull it pretty quickly for you. So happy to help at any time. But I really encourage you to go out and look at this dashboard, and we'll be updating new projections out to 2043, I think, in the next couple of months. So be on the lookout for that.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Is it broke down just by the city, or is it broke down by neighborhoods in the city, or what?
Unfortunately, that dashboard is only at the county level. We don't have any sub-county information out there, right? But again, whatever you need, we can help find it for you. Now we're going to get into a little bit of statewide employment, income, and revenue trends. I'm going to start out by saying this is really not my area of expertise at all, but I'm happy to, if you have any questions that need answering and I can't, happy to put you in touch with somebody in our office, our fiscal analysis division, that can give you more information than you could ever hope for. So. Total employment, this is non-farm employment. This is actual, it's not seasonally adjusted. You can see we had the big drop around the pandemic in 2020, but we recovered quickly. About a year and a half we were recovered and have been growing ever since. We are expecting this to kind of level off in the next couple of years, but for now, we've seen a lot of growth in the state, and things are looking good. I mentioned earlier about finding workers and collaborating, especially with state government, state and local government. We've had periods in the state where there were 7 jobs for every unemployed job seeker, but we're at a point where there's basically 1 job for every job seeker. That's the aging population is part of that. They're starting to retire, so we just don't have as much population in the workforce, and so finding workers, skilled workers, is a problem. And we're working closely with the Coordinating Council for Workforce Development, I mentioned earlier, to really look at the numbers and engage people into getting the training that the people need to getting back in the workforce, bringing people that are out of the workforce now. But it's an issue that we're going to have, and we need, and everywhere is different. Like I said, Horry County, growing so fast with the retiring population, where are the workers going to come from to serve those people and to give them the needs they have?
Chris, I know
Yes, sir.
this isn't really a Horry County, Myrtle Beach, but curious, Scout Motors is 1,000 employees that they're trying to hire. Is there any fear that they can be able to hire that many people?
Yeah, I mean, it's a concern.
That's only going to exacerbate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and, yeah, it's a concern. Personal income is kind of a broad measure of wealth in the state. Seen an average growth of 6% since 2021, up from the 5.3% in the prior period. You can see the projected path we on is much higher than it was during the pandemic and the the stimulus payments. It kind of gave us a jump start and put us on a new trajectory. And you can see that trajectory is much higher, you know, when adjusted for inflation, some salaries raised. So things are looking good, money-wise. You know, personal income growth is expected to continue. Another look at personal income in a different way is year-over-year growth. So percentage growth over the same quarter the previous year. It was on an increase, but we're expected to kind of level out and be at the long-term mean of around 4.5% going forward. General fund revenue continues to be ahead of expected. Collections 11% above last year and almost $230 million ahead of year-to-date expectations. Again, the economy in South Carolina is looking good, has been looking good. We expect things to level off, but you know, we're in a good place right now, have been for a couple of years now. Sales tax, actual versus estimates. Some of the boost we see could be from Hurricane Helene and the relief efforts, holidays, but we expect it to come back down and level out as well for the rest of the fiscal year. And then the new funds available for the budget year, they've gone up. You know, we saw some spikes in the last few years. Everything's looking good, but we do expect it, again, coming up to level out. The money's going to come down, but still in a good place financially for the state. And again, our office has a lot of information and it offers a lot of services. And if you need anything, feel free to reach out anytime. This was just a quick snapshot of what we have, but we have a lot more to offer and happy to find you the information you need if we don't. So thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm probably going to head out, but I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.
Appreciate it.
Says no? Okay. Yeah, the next two. We need to hook up to the internet for the next two, that's what we're.
I think there's someone here who can hold it up.
Sure. Did you put it together, you and your team?
No, thank you.
folks who were here last year, we know we put together a little video that everyone seemed to like last year about all the accomplishments and the hard work that staff and city council and everyone partaked in. We put together another video this year. Meredith, Patrick, and Chastity put this together. It is on our YouTube channel.
Yes, it's unlisted right now, but we'll make it public.
So go ahead and hit play. Where's Ron Garrett? Computer screen is not doing, it doesn't look like that.
From sunup to sundown, Myrtle Beach. See as our beaches, our sports fields. Playground on a 70-degree day. Okay, we're busy.
In PRST, work started on the future McLeod Park splash pad. The new playground is complete at Lions Cove Park, and other finished projects include the Doug Shaw Fieldhouse, Ocean Boulevard median and beach access beautifications, the field's 10 and 11 renovations at the newly named Colonel Thomas Buddy Stires Athletic Complex, the 4,000 plot expansion at Oceanwood Cemetery will be done at the end of March. The mobile library had a big first year, not to mention Myrtle Beach was named the top 15 sports city.
Public Works is doing the work. The 24th Avenue North Ocean Outfall is on schedule. The multi-purpose path at 79th Avenue North was completed, and all of these roads were paved. Warbird Park has its new parking lot. The pedestrian bridge is in at Thunderbolt Park. 7,500 linear feet of water lines and more than 11,000 feet of sewer lines have been replaced in the Arts and Innovation District, servicing the neighborhoods around it. More projects include utility upgrades, underground utility relocation, intersection improvements, and streetscaping. That will complement the future of downtown Myrtle Beach.
After a groundbreaking in July, the theater project is underway with a finish date next year. And the HTC Aspire Hub is expanding next to businesses that have opened along 9th Avenue North. First responders drive Highway 17 bypass quicker now that every signalized intersection in Myrtle Beach has emergency traffic preemption. Fire Station 3 is looking at a late summer grand opening, with Fire Station 1 looking at a 2026 groundbreaking. VFD converted a military surplus vehicle into a high water rescue vehicle, and the opioid response team reports fatal overdoses have dropped by 69% since 2021 in Myrtle Beach. At court, more than 25,000 cases were filed last year. That's about 70 cases a day. At the PD, K-9 Uncas joined the team. 86 cars are part of the growing take-home car program, and technology like the 80 new real-time crime cameras implemented across the city continue to make us safer. Speaking of IT, the Market Common Fiber link was completed, making city data transmission faster and more secure. The audio-video upgrade is done at council chambers, with live feeds soon becoming available for all city meetings on the city's YouTube channel, Myrtle Beach City Gov. Internally, the city services and city annex renovations are complete, creating more much-needed office space in buildings we already have. 16 AEDs have been upgraded in our facilities. Finance received this certificate of achievement for the 36th year in a row. City employees deployed to the upstate to help Hurricane Helene victims, and retention rates are standing strong at 88%. Get ready for another year of accomplishments and more, because Myrtle Beach is full of surprises.
So is that what you guys, John?
I don't know.
So we've done a lot of, we have done a lot of good things in the last 12 months, and it's just, you tend to forget, because I think you tend to forget. That's right. That. Oh, Brian.
You may as well just move your chair.
Yeah, it's two screens.
Let's get Gary to see if we got power.
Yes.
It'll show.
Okay. Should work.
So does he go away?
Yeah. Wouldn't miss this line, Coach, would it?
Yeah.
Okie dokie. All right. Again, appreciate everybody coming this afternoon. Appreciate your time. I'm going to provide some high-level oversights and a little background in this year's recommended budget. We'll touch on the highlights, and we'll talk about some of the challenges or headwinds and some of the issues that we face when we're impacting this year's budget. And as Mayor Bethune eloquently put, today is the city's 87th birthday. So again, happy birthday. We're going to have a party this afternoon. Not only is it our birthday party, but we're also going to celebrate the retirement of Assistant Chief Marty Brown. This is his last retreat here, and we want to wish him well and make sure he has a memorable time. So we won't make him say a speech or anything, but we do want to recognize, and I want to thank you. I'm sorry?
Martin makes a great speech.
So, but I do, Marty, on behalf of the staff and the city management team, I do want to thank you for your 31 years of service to the city of Myrtle Beach. You have made a difference and impacted our community, so thank you. So we'll go ahead and get started. We showed this quote last year, and this quote speaks very eloquently of what we try to do here in the city. We are one team with one goal and one purpose, and we have to work together as a team. We have to collaborate. It starts at city council and comes to staff, and one can't do anything without the other. We need finance, we need HR, we need procurement, we need the police, and no one can do their jobs without each other. And that's what this slide and what Dr. King said in 1962 that speaks to me, is that no one can reach their goals as an individual. We need everybody. So as an organization or as a person, if you have professional goals, you need to work as a team, and that's what we try to do here. We'll continue to try to do, and I think that's what this budget does. Tries to do. There we go. This budget does build on the previous budgets and focuses on the areas of improvements that City Council has identified as public safety, infrastructure, communication, economic development. And all of these work to improve the quality of life of our community, which is the stated goal. I commend you, City Council, for sticking by these. As we talked about, Chris sort of talked about a little bit about salaries. Sustained growth in government, particularly local government, takes time. We don't move fast. There's a lot of reasons for that, a lot of good reasons for that, but we just don't move fast. So by sticking with these goals and these principles for the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years, we've made an impact. You've seen it in crime reduction. We've seen it with infrastructure that's going on. We've seen it with improved communications. We've seen it with economic development. And by sticking with it is how we're moving the city forward. Instead of coming up with 4, we could come up with 4 new ones next year, and we're going a totally different direction. So it's important that we stay and we communicate the same message consistently. And we've done that, and we've shown the results of that. You know, I have a saying, this is later on in the slide, that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. It's an African proverb, and haste makes way, slow and steady wins the race. And we tried to do that, and it's very hard, especially with technology and everything that's going on. It's really hard. But I commend City Council for sticking with this and keeping going. It gives us direction as we build the budget. It's a lot easier for us, and then we're going many different ways each year. So thank you. As the mayor alluded to, this is our budget calendar. A lot of hours have gone into this. This is how we make the sausage, if you will. It's very busy. There's a lot of long days and weekends. For a lot of people in this room, there's a lot of hours in developing this. We actually start in the fall. I know Courtney starts with the accommodations tax back in August or September. That's when we start our accommodations tax process. Letters, putting together all the information. We send memos out to departments for this recommended budget in mid-October with a deadline of end of November. We put together, and then we get those end of November. That book that's in front of where I'm sitting is put together in the month of November and distributed. That comes together to what we're here for today. We spend January meeting with each department, going through their budget. We've been through that budget book that's in front of me at least twice, sometimes 3 times, culling through that. January and February is spent meeting with departments and getting to a recommended budget. March is about the budget retreat. Beginning of March, we come down to final recommendations. We're putting that, Michelle and her team are putting that budget briefing book together along with staff. We hold a retreat now, and then next couple of weeks we're going to do follow-up based on what we hear today, or in tomorrow and Friday. And then we get into in April and May where we have additional workshops if necessary with City Council about what's in the budget. Ideally, we go work with the calendar. The way we try to lay it out is we have first reading and second readings of the budget in May with a public hearing the first meeting in May. And it's important because we are not the federal government. We have to have a balanced budget passed by June 30. We cannot pass provisos, stopgap funding measures, whatever you want to call it. We have to have a balanced budget by June 30 by state law. So we try to get this done in the month of May because there is sometimes a need for a buffer. But the goal is to have this completed by the second reading of May. And again, I would thank everybody in this room for help putting this together. As Dr. King said, we only get to this, we get through this calendar to get to a balanced budget through collaboration and teamwork. So I thank Michelle and Marla, Lori, Diana, and the folks that aren't even here to help put this together, and all the department heads around the room who came and contributed to this. I appreciate all the work that you guys have done, and thank you. So let's kind of get into transition into the budget and how we arrived here today for the FY 25-26 recommended budget. This is a good budget. There is no tax increase included in this budget. Just learned this morning, literally about an hour ago, the city of Conway is recommending a 2.8 mil tax increase, a 3% tax increase in their budget. Tommy, where's Tommy over there? This paper, news, Maori News broke the news. So, thank you. Let's see, no tax increase. However, there are some headwinds. We'll talk about that in a second. But when we factor in the TDF credit with our tax rate, our tax millage, we are in the bottom tier of the state of South Carolina in terms of what our millage, effective millage rate is in our 4% property when you factor in the TDF credit. So we are a very affordable place to live in our community. There's no increase in business license fee. There are some user fee increases associated with water, sewer, and stormwater. Those are in solid waste. These are pass-throughs to our customers, allowed from the Grand Strand Water and Sewer and the Horry County tipping fees, for example, with the solid waste fees. There is a small adjustment that Charlie will talk about in planning and zoning. And there's a very minor building permit fee that Brian will mention, I think, tomorrow. In construction services, it's really to address an inequity, and it's literally inconsequential. But we have a slide on that for you tomorrow. Michelle's going to share some information with you tomorrow as well, but the city's in a very strong position financially. The general fund, the general fund balance is over 20% of expenditures. The hospitality fees and tax funds and the local accommodation funds are all very, very strong. Hospitality taxes and fees are in excess of $20 million. So we have a very healthy, strong bank account, and that's important. There are some issues in the health insurance fund and the water and sewer fund are being impacted by higher big capital projects, but the city overall is very healthy, and that's important, especially right now. As we sit here this afternoon, I was just reading the Wall Street Journal this morning, and we got U.S. trade wars with Canada, hard landings in the stock market. If anyone's paying attention, there's a lot of uncertainty of what's happening in Washington, D.C. right now. So having a strong balance, fund balance, really helps us with a lot of different things. One of the things is we don't have to do any interim borrowing for taxes. We pay our bills as they come due. A lot of cities do, they call TANs, tax anticipation notes, where they borrow money from the banks for short-term lending to pay in order to make payroll. We don't have to do that. We rely on our fund balance as cash flow, and that's important because we don't have to pay interest on that. It also helps us with our rating agencies when we do have to go out for debt. Having strong balance sheets is very important and why we have such a strong credit rating for the city. It also helps us prepare for that inevitable, no, I don't see inevitable, for hopefully never to come H word that we worry about in the fall. And finally, it does allow us a limited opportunity to maybe use some of that for one-time capital events and projects. So congratulations and thank you for such a helping us achieve such a healthy fund balance. Come on. All right. With this budget, excuse me, it does not include any service level changes. So in essence, what we have here today, if this budget's passed as recommended, what we'll have on July 1st. There's no added services, there's no added people, no additional services per se. There are some increases that we'll talk about in a little bit, but it's a very ho-hum budget, I guess, in that regard. There are some challenges or headwinds. Marla's going to talk about those a little bit after this, and Michelle will talk more about it tomorrow. But one of it is our TDF. Our TDF revenue ended FY24 essentially flat from FY23. It was actually down 0.03% if you want to get technical. But the tax credit grew 14%. So we have, and that's forecasted for FY25, our TDF revenue is down about 1.5 points so far this fiscal year. It has changed. It's now rising again, but our tax credit is expected to grow 11.5%. So we have the situation where the revenue to TDF is essentially flat, but the growth of the tax credit is going up. And so there's a delta between the amount of revenue coming in and the amount of credit that is due to the 4%ers that's creating an imbalance. So that is one of the largest challenges that we're having to face with this year's budget. We're going to talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. We can talk more about it whenever you choose, but we will all be talking about it. But there is some issues there that we need to address. The hospitality taxes and hospitality fees are also down a little bit beginning in FY25, about 3.5%. It's not time to panic per se, because these declines are off of FY23 and 24 numbers, which are historic highs. Tourism revenues are up if you compare them to FY23. So that's good news. The other good news is the decline that we've seen is in the first 3 or 4 months of the fiscal year. July, August, September, they have turned the corner and they are now rising again if you look at November, December, January. The bad news is the rise is in November, January, and February and not June, July, and August. So that's a little bit of an issue. Hopefully that will continue. We're hopeful. Having Easter in mid-April this year helps a lot. I think last year was at the end of March. That's a big deal. We're going to talk about growth and employment in a slide or two. Chris sort of laid it out in the previous conversation. So we have a couple headwinds. We have the TDF as a headwind. Our health insurance, we're going to talk more about that tomorrow as well. We're having a really bad year right now. Yes, Mike?
Going back to the hospitality fee, the drop of 3%. Those of you who do this in the room, with the fact that the impact that the hurricane has had in western North Carolina, Tennessee, a lot of those areas, could that be probably one of the factors affecting us a lot? I know I've got friends in even in the campground upstate, middle of the state, that they're feeling this the same way, this impact, and a lot of their impact and losses coming from the fact that all of these areas have been impacted, and a lot of those folks that live in those areas come to Myrtle Beach. So could that be part of our issue there as well?
Look at Michelle shaking her head.
Absolutely.
I mean, anytime, it's like you said, a lot of folks in North Carolina, Tennessee, that area, this is one of their vacation spots.
And that just goes back to, even though we do have a lot of flights here, Myrtle Beach is still a drive-to destination.
That's
Yes.
a saving grace so often.
Exactly.
But in the same token, when you think about the folks that were displaced for Helene in Milton before that, when you look at those, you also may have had some folks who came here to get away from the situation there. So you could have a little more money, or people who would have gone there to Asheville or somewhere else that are here. So it can hit us both ways.
Thank you.
Yeah, and to that point, you know, I was debating whether to bring this up or not, but you kind of led me into it a little bit, Mike. You know, this is the Can-Am week, and the mayor was over at the chamber Monday, I think, for the luncheon.
before yesterday.
Which was Monday.
I feel like it's Friday.
Yeah, days are getting a little mixed up, and celebrate Can-Am days. And I think this year everyone's optimistic about that, but I heard a statistic on the radio Wall Street Journal that 25% of the drive-to market from Canada over the United States border is down. The number of people driving across the border from Canada to the United States is down over 20%. So we may be fine in 2025. What is 2026? What is that forecast for 2026? I don't know. But it's a concern, something we need to look at. But those types of issues that happen in Washington actually do have impact on us daily. So we have to pay attention to it.
And just, Fox, to add to that, Mike, what was said to me by multiple people at the chamber, these were Canadians that were here visiting, is that we may not feel the impact as much this year because they didn't have time to cancel their reservations, but that people are canceling for next year because of what's happening in DC. So we may not feel it as bad right now, but I think we need to be prepared for what next year is going to look like.
Well, I agree with you probably on that, but I was looking more like not so much for this month here. I was looking at the overall issue with, you know, that our visitors coming here and how Western North Carolina, Virginia, and Tennessee areas have, when all of that's taking place, that's had a major effect on my beer over here.
So bring back to the slideshow here. You know, we have some headwinds. Like I said, the TDF imbalance, health benefit fund with the high claims is one. Growth and the retention of our employees is a big one. Chris led into that a lot. We're going to get into some more of show some more of those slides here. But that's important, critically important, because if we want to achieve our goals, we need the people here to do it. And then just overall growth in providing services. So we can talk a little bit about the growth here. This is a slide that Chris showed, but I add a little to it. The 2020 census is 35.7. The 2023, July 23 was 39.7. It's actually about 3 people short. So I just rounded up, and that's 11% increase. But what that slide, it stops at July 1st of 2023. I went back and looked at our construction service permits since July of 2023, and we've added 900 single-family permits to the city of Myrtle Beach since July 1st of 2023. You take a conservative multiplier of 1.5 people per permit, that gets you 1,350 additional people, which will easily put that over 40,000 people. So that 11% increase is probably more like 13 or 14% since July of 2020. That's huge. That is a big growth for us. And you know, we all know Horry County coming into the city of Myrtle Beach. Excuse me. Can you go get me another water, please? Excuse me, I get a little hoarse. I'm not good. Charlie's going to get another glass of water for me. Thank you. So growth is a big deal. Come on. There we go. We're going to talk about the importance of teammate retention in the next several slides, but it has to be a big focus area, and it has been for the last several years and will continue to be for the foreseeable future, and compensation and benefits are a big deal with that. Again, recommended budget addresses teammates, compensation benefits, and addresses the council's priorities of public safety, communication, infrastructure, and economic development. The budget includes a 5% cost of living adjustment for all full-time employees effective July 1st, 2025. We talk about the need to recruit and retain, and we're going to have to continue to do that in order to keep the people that we have. And these are just a sample of some of the positions of the salaries of where they are and what they would be if this budget is passed. From solid waste collector would go to 43.4, certified police officer would go to 66.3, firefighter paramedic would go to 71.3. Thank you. This is passed. as we have presented it to you for recommendation. For benefits, which is equally important, this budget does include President's Day as a city paid holiday in 2026. Forever, it's been a city workday, but this budget, if passed, would include President's Day as a paid holiday. We talked a little bit about health insurance. Currently, this budget doesn't include any changes in health insurance, and that is important when it comes to recruiting and retention. However, given some of the challenges that we have, that may not be able to sustain. There may be some plan design changes or some cost shifting of some sort. We're still working with our consultants and our team to figure that out as we sit here this afternoon. And we'll certainly keep you abreast of that. But we're having a difficult year when it comes to claims. It's lining of the stars, I guess. It's just it might be just one of those things. We don't know. But it's some of the things we have to pay attention of. We do offer foreign language differential for folks who speak a second language. We do have degree pay for some folks in positions. We have a lot of other things in our benefit package that are very attractive to folks, and that's important to keep those. Because as Meredith in their video said, we have a retention rate of 88.2% for 2024, which is great. We're starting going up, and in this market, that is a really good number. I'd like to get it over 92, but we've made progress, and I thank council for giving us the resources to do that. We're doing a lot of things right. Not only do we want to retain our employees, but we also want to become an employer of choice in this market, which goes back to the benefits and the compensation. If we want to be an employer of choice, we have to offer a competitive benefit package and a competitive salary, and I think we do. We just got to keep it going in order to do that. And like I said, we've turned the corner. We've got 88%, and this is an encouraging slide. As we sat here last year at this retreat, we had 105 vacancies with about 9.9%. As we sit here this afternoon, we have 82 vacancies at 8.3%. We had a 22% differential in the good way. We've gone down. Negatives in this case is a good thing. So we've reduced the number of vacancies 22%, and the percentage of vacancies has gone down about 15%. That's a good thing for this slide. So we have to keep it going. And as Chris alluded to, you've seen this is why our workforce population for 18 to 64 has gone from 62 to projected to 57.9. When we look at the workforce population of 18 to 64, as he said, there's one job for one person. So we showed this slide last year and it hasn't changed. I expected this to change from when we showed this last year to this year, and it has not changed. I was a little surprised, frankly. But it shows what's going on in our marketplace. And as Chris said, and as we talked about, we are obviously the fastest growing area percentage-wise in the country or the state, however you want to do it. But as he put it, our population growth is north of 55. And they're demanding services. They're demanding police officers. We got to hire solid waste workers. We got to hire firemen and paramedics and other people, public works, street workers. And it's hard to find people right now. It's getting harder and harder to find people. This is the other slide. I'm glad he pointed out the importance of it. And you'll see how wide that gap is getting at the bottom of 18 to 64. And you have 65 and plus. So it's just growing as we look for employment, and we look for our new employees, our new teammates, going forward into the future. That's why it's critical we always pay attention, that we're paying attention to the employee side of the organization. Transition a little bit into what's in the budget and the highlights. In our fire department, we've included automatic vehicle locator in all response vehicles. We have a Purvis station alerting system. I'll let Tom Guire or Vinny explain what that is if they choose. It's a new way we Tom, is a new way we cat out calls?
No, well, yeah, it's a new way we would dispatch it. So what it is, it's an IP-based station alerting system. So the 911 call comes in, dispatcher does their thing, they type it in, and when they're done, they will actually hit the send button. The dispatcher no longer has to speak. The actual computer will speak. one of the things that it may sound kind of odd, but the responders get used to the same voice over and over. The clarity is better. It actually frees the dispatcher up to do other things while the call's being dispatched. Then on the back end, like in the firehouse, it has the little things like, you know, the run tickets that print out. The screens can show like a countdown clock, how long the call was dispatched, how long it's taking you to turn out to get out into the street. We can program the alert tones different. Right now, it goes to 0 to 100. So when you're asleep, I mean, it'll scare the bejesus out of you. One, that's obviously not good for your heart, but you can slowly elevate the alert tone. You can program it for the doors to close, the lights to come on. And there's just a lot of advantages to it. Charleston County has been using it, all the fire departments down there for quite a while now. Horry County just implemented it. I think it was last year or the year before. They're phasing it in. Obviously, they got like 20-some stations. So, yeah, we're excited about that. Looking forward to it. It'll be good.
And it continues with our radio. We have new cardiac replacements in the department. And as the video showed about the Opticon system, it continues the payment of that, which is a very cool thing and necessary to help responses to where folks are going. We do have challenges with paramedic recruitments. We work constantly trying to solve this, and we need, I don't know what to do. We're still working on it. We're not the only ones doing it, though. That's the problem. It's an industry-wide situation. There's a big article that was in the Post and Courier back in early February that explained all the issues in Berkeley and Charleston County that they're having with paramedic recruitment. We're not any different than anyone. I was talking to Vinny earlier this morning, actually, about this, and he shared with me that even the private ambulance services are having trouble with paramedic recruitments. We continue to explore alternatives. It is a priority, but it seems like it's going to be one of those constant things we're constantly trying to address.
Fox, is that because less people are actually going into the field, becoming paramedics?
I mean, a little bit of everything. So actually, we're at Georgetown Technical College. They have an awesome system, and we've actually been trying to engage and recruit them early in school. Part of our Asher training that we're doing with the police department, we've actually partnered with their cadre of instructors to try to get them integrated in the CR department. But a lot of them have moved on into like nursing. It's a bridge into nursing and some other more lucrative jobs that can kind of push them into other directions. So yeah, it's a struggle everywhere you go, and like we shared with Fox, it's just not unique to us.
We've actually really struggled in the past 5 years with people transitioning from being a paramedic into nursing. With the advent of online education, especially in the medical field now, they have a lot of the basic stuff already. So now they can, on their time off, they can do their schoolwork, they can transition and to the nursing field, and there's so many more options. When you're a paramedic, you're a paramedic. There's not a whole lot of different things you can do. But when you're a nurse, there's different departments in the hospital, there's different, home health care, you can work in the prison system. There's so many things you can do. And the cost of it is very expensive. Not for us because we have a relationship with Horry Georgetown Tech, but if you're coming out of high school and you want to be a paramedic, you go to Horry Georgetown Tech's website right now, it's $15,000 for 3 semesters to become a paramedic. Your return on your investment is not great, especially when you consider you could go into radiology with an x-ray tech or go into nursing and pay roughly the same cost and have a lot more options.
Yeah, we're not unique in that. It's an industry-wide across the profession, but we got to keep plugging away and try to address it somehow, make retention. We started some mental health awareness this year. We're going to try to expand on some of it next year. Police Department, continue with the take-home car initiative. Budget includes $750,000 for 9 additional take-home car vehicles. I will share, and I think I have a slide in here later on. We did have to trim this down $200,000 from the request in order to make the budget balance, but we are continuing with the program. Maybe not as aggressively as we all want, but we have to make choices when we're balancing the budget. We do that. We include $150,000 for city cameras, AVLs for all the police vehicles, and the virtual reality simulator, which is very important. And Amy and Marty or Chris or Jeremiah can explain what that is. And we're continuing with mental health. The virtual reality simulator is a really cool thing to help with training for our officers. It can change the scenario out so you don't get stale, so you don't know where you're walking into, which is critical when you come to training. That about it?
That's it. Sometimes give us opportunities to increase training not only for our new officers, but throughout the year, whether we have to do retraining or training with our new officers or our officers with different scenarios from domestics to response to critical incidents. So it's a great new addition to our program.
So we're excited about that. And again, same issue with the fire department, mental health. We're trying to do as much as we can, as aggressively as we can within the budget and the means that we have. We need to do more, and we know that, and we're working towards that. But each budget builds upon the last budget, and we increase it where we can, when we can. All right, it's over here. Communication. Meredith will talk about, and she's already talked about, the branding initiative that the city has just undertaken. There's going to be a lot more in the next 6 to 12 months when it comes to this. And Meredith and her team have done a great job in the last 12 months since she's taken over. Well, maybe 10 months, Meredith? 11 months. So the number of reaches that we have on our social media has gone through the roof. What did we have for the snow, Patrick? Do you remember what the...
Yeah, 2 videos that eclipsed 1 million views. One of them was just shy of 2 million views.
So
that's not even counting some photo only posts that also blew up.
Yeah, and we're streaming this retreat right now, and then she said in the video that we just saw, we're soon going to be streaming all of our boards and commissions where we can, like Planning Commission, CAB, those types of meetings to help improve and get the information out. So we're excited about that. The budget, also for infrastructure and beautification. We have additional funding for Ocean Boulevard and the crosswalk lightings. We have funding for parks, restrooms and parks in Ocean Boulevard. I know that Dylan Shumpert's somewhere around here. We'll be talking, I think, on Friday about Ocean Boulevard restrooms. There's funding there. The street marking budget has increased $100,000 from what we had in the budget previously. We have additional funding for 2 additional driver feedback signs. This goes with the 2 that we already have in inventory, so if this budget's passed come July 1, unless they're deployed, we'll have 4. And we have a sign shop in our Public Works Department that can make signs pretty, I won't say every sign, but they have a wide repertoire of the signage that they can make and how they make them. So we have a sign shop, we've had that in our traffic division for a while. So that's what this budget includes. Among other things, multimodal transportation for bikes and sidewalks. We have bollard replacements, crosswalk cleaning on Ocean Boulevard, traffic signs. Fire Station 1, we talked about that a little bit. We're going to probably need a reimbursement resolution for that in the next few months as we continue with the design and plan of that station. I think we said 26 is when we plan to break ground, but we're spending money on the design of that, and that's still going forward. So that reimbursement resolution will come up here in front of you in a few months. Budget includes designs of new baseball fields, multi-purpose fields, I guess is a better way of putting it, Dustin. Field 12 next to Crabtree Gym for our youth. You see some information tomorrow afternoon about the growth that we're seeing, as we would expect, in youth sports, baseball and softball. So we have included that. We also include funding for shade structures and a new surface at Savannah's Playground come July 1. Is that July 1, Michelle? Is that what okay. Let me make sure I got the right July. I knew we had it in there, I just couldn't remember what July. So it does do a lot of things to address council's priorities. Again, we can't do it all, but we do the best we can with what we have and try to balance the budget with the resources available. Again, this doesn't include any service level changes. If somehow we do have service level changes come available and revenue presents itself, this would be our recommendation of what we would include and how we would include it. We would like to add to the take-home car vehicles in the police department. We would like to include a landscaping crew at those figures. And we would like to include with the branding and the advent of the website that's coming, we probably need the graphic designer. So we would like that for 75% of the year. The records retention clerk, it's something we don't have, and it's kind of a unique position. With that position, we have Jennifer as our clerk to retain our records, but when we have contracts, we don't have a way of maintaining it. Someone's got to remember that our Pepsi contract expired at the end of 2024. Brooke, is that right? And I had the only way we remembered that is I had a little tickler in my calendar that's about 6 months before that said, hey, the Pepsi contract is due in 6 months. That's how we're remembering things. We need to have somebody on staff that can be able to retrack all of these contracts. I'm sorry, Bill?
Record retention, for what you just described, and maybe there's more to it than what you just said, but if all you need is a tickler to tell you when things are due, when things expired, you can do that with an Excel spreadsheet.
There's more than that as well. We also have record retention. We also have a lot of records that we have to dispose of on a timely basis through archives that we need to get rid of. We have them, we retain them. There's a shelf life, we have to keep them. And then they get buried into the warehouse, or now it's over in Brian's spot, and they just pile up. And after 3 or 4 years, you are allowed to destroy them, but you have to keep them. And then you have to keep some for 20 years, some for 10, some for 5, some forever. And we don't have a good person able to do that, to call through that in order to manage that. So that's also part of what that position would do.
It'll digitize the records so that we reduce our storage space that we need. It'll also maintain the records because they're going to degrade over time, just papers in a box. And I have to keep that for 10 or 15 years. Sometimes in that box or wherever we have it stored, you're not going to be able to read it in that time. So there are more reasons than one. Also, right now with the record retention rules that Fox mentioned, that's sort of in the hands of every single department. This way, we would have one individual who would have the knowledge needed to make sure that we are retaining those records as long as we need it, but only as long as we need to. And that they're, destroyed, disposed of, eliminated at the right time.
Or is it a requirement, and I don't know, is it a requirement that you have to keep the paper?
Sometimes.
Or could you scan them?
And if you want to get rid of an original, it says that the record retention rules say that you have to have an original for certain things, an absolute original. And I'm not even talking about police stuff because that's going to be even harder rules to follow. But if you want to dispose of original, there are times you actually have to, for lack of a better word, petition the State Records and Retention Office, explain to them what that original is and what you're replacing it with or how you're going to maintain it to get permission to get rid of that hard copy. So it is a process.
Yeah, this is one of those things that's being we're mandated by the state for certain records for rules. And I go back to I've been a little gray, got a lot of gray hair. I remember when I first started here about looking at Jano DHAC. I don't know if they still have. We had to do wood we couldn't do composites on the boardwalk or over beach accesses for the longest time because it said wood, not wood-like. It just said wood, and that's the DHAC said wood is wood, and that caused problems. So there's some bureaucracy that we deal with frequently in Columbia.
We're not going to need a wood retention square.
No.
Just want to check.
No. Let me see if this works. So those are 5 service level changes. We would, like I said, in priority order, if we're able to somehow, again, secure resources going forward. Let's see if this works. It should work according to Mr. Garrett. But this is a video. One of the things I struggle with, and this is kind of a personal, since I got the microphone, I'd say is, I have a quote in my office. I have 2 quotes actually, more than that. But critics. I do my best not to read the social media critics and things of that nature. Criticism's easy. And I have a quote from Teddy Roosevelt about the man in the arena. And a lot of folks know that, and that's what this video is. And it just, I think a lot of us need to just refresh it that what we're doing is important. What you guys are all doing, everybody in this room, council, staff, everybody. It is so important, and it's so hard to get at least speaking for myself, demoralized when you hear all the criticisms about what if, you should have, woulda. And that's why I thought it was important to show this to, just as a kind of a reminder of the importance of what we all are doing.
The poorest way to face life is to face it with a sneer. There are many men who feel a kind of twisted pride and cynicism. There are many who confine themselves to criticism of the way others do what they themselves dare not even attempt. There is no more unhealthy being, no man less worthy of respect than he who either really holds or feigns to hold an attitude of sneering disbelief toward all that is great and lofty, whether in achievement or in that noble effort which, even if it fails, comes to second achievement. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat.
Just thank you, for everybody for what you do, because it is important. And like I said, speaking just personally, that it's hard, and we're trying the best we can with what we have. I know everyone's trying the best they can to make this community better than it was yesterday. Each day, we're trying to make an improvement over tomorrow better than it was today. And it's hard work, it's important work, and we just got to keep reminding ourselves about that. And again, personally, it's sometimes hard to not get beat down from the folks, and the phone calls, and the folks that are just trying to eat it. So I know everybody gets it, but I just thought it was important to do that. I got one more slide, and I'll get out two more slides to get out of your hair. We talked about teamwork and the importance. Oh, come on. That's good. We talked about teamwork.
Teamwork.
Teamwork, right? These are the quotes. You want to go fast, you go alone. You want to go far, you go together. Teamwork. in the world, but if he doesn't have a support team with him, he's not going to be successful without our team. The same thing with the police department, HR, risk management, community engagement office, neighborhood services. We need everybody pulling together, and it's so critically important. And this is the last video, I promise. Patrick put this together for me, and I thought it was important to talk about the importance of team. Oh, man.
I'd like to go. Wherever that is, I'd like to go.
That is it. So I appreciate, again, teamwork, collaboration is critically important for us to achieve our goals as an organization. That's all I had for you this afternoon. Does anybody have questions for me, for us? All right. You can get Marla's presentation up. She can talk to you about the mid-year update for FY '25. Might want to take a 5-minute break while we try to get this thing squared away. On the FY 25 midyear update, Meredith wanted me to make sure I made this announcement. All the documents that we have here are on our website, under council documents.
I want to find council documents, I believe so.
So all the documents that you've seen and will see are there, the public can see them as well. So just want to make sure I made that announcement. I'll let Marla take it away from here.
Good afternoon, everyone.
You have to speak up.
Okay. Since we're planning and preparing for next year's budget, it's always good to take a look at where we are in the current year budget. So what we're going to do is start by looking at our general fund and the key revenues that impact our general fund. First off, we have our property taxes, which represent 24.3% of the general budget. Through January 31st, 2025, 99% of budgeted property tax revenue has been received. Also, keep in mind here it's a reassessment year, so we don't know what kind of appeals or abatements or errors may come in. But so far, we've collected around $32 million, and we anticipate around $36 million for collections for the year. Next, we have our business license and building permit revenue. Our business license represents 25.5% of our general fund budget. And it's a bit too soon to tell right now with our April deadline. We usually receive most of our revenue in the last quarter for business license. Our building permit revenues, year to date, we've collected around $1.6 million. Our building permit revenues only represent 2.6% of the general fund budget, but however, they do give us a good market indicator, and as you can see here, they are starting to normal out, or level out as Mr. Feeney spoke of earlier. Fox mentioned earlier about our tourism-driven revenues and what we're seeing there, and we will continue to monitor these. Tourism-driven revenues make up around 31.3% of the general fund budget. As you can see, our TDF is down 1.5%, hospitality fees and taxes are down 3%, and stay and local accommodations are down 3.4%. And if you look from 21 to 22, you'll see the big spike there, which that's completely unreal for what we would anticipate. So they are normalizing, so to speak. Our general fund expenditures through January. Our general fund expenditures have increased 11% or $6.7 million. Most of that is due to public safety, 65.6% of overall growth. Around 76% of our year-to-date expenditures are due to personnel costs, and we have 54.4% of the budget expended through January of 2025. Switching to our enterprise fund, our business type funds. Our operating revenues are up here 14.9%, $4.3 million through January. Our parking revenues are down $314,000. Solid waste revenues are up $120,000. The biggest contributors here are our tipping and collection fees. Our water and sewer revenues are up $4.5 million due to $2 million in federal grant money and charges for services, which includes our 9% fee increase. Our enterprise, one slide too far. Our enterprise fund operating expenditures are up 6.3%, $1.6 million through January. Our parking operating expenses are down $45,000. Solid waste operating expenses are up $597,000. A lot of that due to personal services. Our water and sewer operating expenses are up $835,000. Again, partly due to personal services and our vehicle and equipment costs being up. clicker is not friendly. Lastly, our internal service funds. As you can see, Mr. Marty is packed and ready for his next adventure. Our revenues here are up 4.9%. That's operating and non-operating combined. Expenses are up 18.3%. The fleet, self-insurance, and retiree health insurance funds ended January with a positive change in net assets, sufficient operating and non-operating revenues generated to cover the expenses. Now, health insurance fund, as we talked about earlier, we do expect that we will end this budget year with a deficit, and we may have to do an adjustment at year end, and that's solely due to our health insurance claims that are coming in, the number of claims, the severity of the claims. So we will continue to monitor that. At this time in our budget year, we're where we anticipated we would be, and we're, of course, going to review and continue to monitor that closely as we approach year end. That's all I have.
Questions?
Is this the time where Marty goes around and signs everybody's book?
Thoughts? Concerns? I mean, we covered a little bit. We'll get into a lot more tomorrow. You got, I think you're about to say something. That's really what we have for you for today. That was going to take a little bit longer. We went through it. We anticipate more questions. Here we can answer some questions. We can have, you guys can have some time to talk as a group.
The business license revenue, you said that obviously we don't know where it's going to come in at because we get most of it in the last portion of the year. But how does the 2.985 compare to where we were at this point in previous years?
Down.
Is what?
Down.
Down by,
So these numbers that are in here are not full year, they're year to date for previous years? Okay.
And remember, business license, the year is up for the business license year, April 30th. So what's about to happen in the next 45 days is you're going to receive the most amount of the business license revenue during that time.
Right.
And that's based on last year, prior year's revenue levels for all those businesses that are filed. So, as they alluded to, a lot of that money you're just not going to see yet, but they are right, it is down. But I don't believe, I don't think there's anything to like jump for the hills for, oh no, it's down. I think it's going to be fine from what we've seen. When we look at what we've seen year over year for the number of renewals coming in right now, we're only down 1% as of this year or this time last year. So, you know, it's kind of wait and see. It's something that's going to slowly come in, but you're going to see a lot of it over the next 45 days.
My wife is working to keep those business license revenues up for those businesses.
Tell her we appreciate her very much.
And then there are a couple $1 million that won't come in until August or September. You're talking about the MASC collected brokers and insurance. Sometimes, I've seen them come in October.
Yep, she's 100% right.
Just-
July, I didn't think it was September.
Like,
just looking at the mid-year on the business license revenue and the building permit, I just want to make sure that I hear this figure right again. So would you tell me where we were this time last year at this same time with business license revenue and with building permits? Or I know it looks like to me both are down right now. So what were we at this time last year on both?
That's what this slide is. It doesn't show the whole year, it just shows
I understand,
this
but
time
at this
last year.
point, that's what I'm saying.
Yep, that's what it shows.
with a business license, we were at $3.4 million this time last year.
Okay,
And
I see,
we're
okay.
$3 million this year, basically.
Same with your own permit,
Okay.
1.4 last year.
So this, the previous one, The previous scale is
The year to
is
date
a
at
half,
our same
a
point.
half of the year, but, okay, all right. Okay, thank you.
But if I'm hearing this correctly, taking the number 3.4 and 3, by the time we get to the finish line, we're expecting it to be much closer to what we had before. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes, the 37 million, I believe it was roughly that we collected for '04. Yes, we expect to come in close to that. It was
Order of
like
magnitude.
'04, 24.
Order of magnitude, right?
Yes.
How are we looking at it for the following fiscal year? Is that something that's going to level off for us?
Minimal growth. I'm looking at almost flat.
Again, the thing, back to Jeremy's
Yeah.
point, the thing you have to think about with business license in particular is it's in arrears. So if our businesses are hurting this year, if our businesses are hurting more this year than they were last year, then our business license revenue next year is gonna be down more than it is this year.
No, I get it. I
So
get it.
it's gonna cascade, and so that.
And on top of that, we've had record years for the last 3 years.
Right.
Unprecedented growth in revenue. At some point, it will stabilize, but if you look year over year, it's still healthy. The growth is good.
And I guess that's the point I want to get at.
Yes, sir.
Because you've had those with the pandemic, and then the pandemic's over, and we had this huge spike, as everybody else did, which to me is an anomaly. And we kind of need to keep that in focus and look at it more on a 5-year trend than what happens year over year.
And that's why we've been able to accumulate these healthy fund balances that Fox talked about. Because we really didn't anticipate that those revenues would continue at such a high level as long as they did after the pandemic. I always think back to the housing bubble, the real estate bubble back in '09. We saw that was not sustainable long-term.
Right.
And had we budgeted in that manner, we would have suffered just like the communities around us. Fortunately, we did not, because we recognized that it really wasn't something that we needed to have have recurring expenditures budgeted against. And we tried to do the same with these various revenues that are really volatile.
Has the municipal associations, like multi-jurisdictional payment portal for business licenses affected us, helped us at all?
It actually, what it really helps is the customer. They're able to go have a one-stop shop. You have multiple locations throughout the state. Instead of having to go to each one of those jurisdictions and file a business license, now you go to one place. Now, where that helps us is it makes doing business here that much easier, that much better. Where it kind of hurts us, and this is just me, is their credit card fees are high, their ACH fees are high, and so a lot of times they still come back to us to want to do a paper return just to not pay that fee. It's just kind of a give and take, but ultimately, having that ability to have the jurisdiction be able to file in a one-stop shop, they love it. And they use it.
Boy, it got quiet quick. Marla must have done a great job.
She did.
So we have a
Very conservative
It's a
budget.
very conservative budget. Given what we just talked about, with what's going on in Washington and what outside of our control and revenue streams that we're struggling with, didn't want to get too far out over our skis, and keep a strong fund balance. That's critically important. And still maintain the priorities that you have set out for us. I think we did a good job. Obviously, could be better, more resources, but there's obviously balance there. That's what we have for you for today. We can go to the next 40 minutes or 30 minutes for council discussion. We could adjourn at 4, or we could adjourn early. It's up to you all. I know people have to check into the hotel, so I know that's what it's at 4. You guys know what you want to say?
I just want to say, looking at you first talked about no property tax increase. We're looking at revenues being somewhat down or flat, and we're looking at the increases in expenses, I think the fact that we're not gonna have to look at a property tax increase is pretty amazing. And we're not even into the depth of this yet.
I think that just based on what I, there again, I'm not the expert in this room when it comes to anything about hospitality fees, A-tax, all of that stuff. But in my feeble mind, I see almost a 10-point drop in these fees over this period. Is that correct?
Sorry.
When you add them all up together.
You want the building permit fee?
No, I'm talking about hospitality.
Tourism-driven revenues being down.
The tourism development fee, hospitality fees, the state and local tax is down. It's 7.9%. And I think, if that's a trend that we're gonna look at, I think one of the things we really probably need to be paying attention to is what we're looking to spend hospitality fees on this coming year.
And like I said, it's down, and it was down in June, July, and August. It has, the last 3 months, those fees are now up if you compare them to last year. The problem is, it's January, December, January, February, and not July, so there's the imbalance. I think Michelle's gonna talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. But that's the concern, and that's the biggest concern. We do not have a property tax increase. We're tackling the growth or the flatness or the 1% growth in TDF with 11% growth in your tax credit is a problem that we're gonna have to address. That is a problem. We've tackled that. We had this situation one time in the 10 years I've been here. But we're gonna have to figure out a way to address it and see what's going and monitor that very, very, very closely. But that's my biggest concern with the budget right now.
Yeah, that and the health insurance, which we'll talk more about tomorrow. One of the things that I want to make sure to do is keep you abreast of where that fund is. We're monitoring claims, we're monitoring the fund balance, and we're taking extra care naturally to make sure it stays healthy and make sure that council's abreast of where it is at all times and how it got there.
It's a good budget. It is, it's not all, it's a really good budget. It does make progress in the goals that you have all outlined for us, so.
And Fox, like we've done in prior years, I think, because in the past few years, we've experienced a situation where revenues have been higher than what we budgeted and anticipated. What we've done is those priorities or the manager's recommendations for things that we would add if we had additional revenue, they've already been laid out. And then we already have the plan also, if the revenues come in lower, what we're gonna do, number one, is we're gonna pull back on those capital projects. And I'll go through all that tomorrow like I do every year, what our strategic plan is for managing any sort of downturn in the economy or anything that affects our revenues negatively. I think a good word for this budget is very intentional.
It's intentional, but it covers every part of the city.
Yes, comprehensive and intentional.
We got the phase 3, I forgot to mention, we got phase 3 of the tree planting replacement in Market Common. That's included in the CIP. Cloud splash pad, some of that money is included for our second splash pad. Third, I missed. Oh, the AMI water meters.
Well, that's actually going to be done this year.
It'll get done this year, so we'll have that completed. So there are a lot of good things for us in this budget that you should be proud of. Again, that's what we have for you today, this afternoon. I know folks around this room have a lot of check-ins to do at the hotel. You'll be flooded here, and then we have dinner, ribeyes, and what else we got? Shrimp and ribeyes?
Seafood.
Oh, tonight's seafood or tonight's ribeyes?
Ribeyes and shrimp.
Surf and turf. Surf and turf?
That really safe.
Yes, together.
So, that's it, a little bit before 6, so. Unless members of council have anything for us, I don't. Good.